right, welcome everybody back to another episode of the Big Doug and Carmi Show. Your one-stop shop for all things Commanders. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you hit the notification button. Follow us on Twitter so that you never miss an episode like today's episode with Ryan Fowler. Ryan, how are you, buddy?
Doing well, guys. I was appreciate having me on.
Always, we are always excited to have you. One of our favorite guests several times a
Absolutely.
year. Not the season we were looking forward to. We usually get excited with you later in the year, Ryan, as we hit the draft. We were hoping not to have to look at draft stuff so early this year. We let you do that early. We get it to it late. I guess we're going to get to it early this year. Before we do that, let's take a quick look back at how we got here, Ryan. For you, if I asked what has been the good, the bad, and the ugly so far for the Commanders this year?
Yeah, man, obviously it'd be so easy to put the blanket statement as injuries, guys.
Yeah.
But I think when you look around the league and specifically my eyes go to the Niners with losing Nick Bosa and
That's
Fred
the first thing
Warner.
I thought.
There's still a competitive roster out there and really what's been the most competitive division in football, really them in the NFC North. I think the good this year has been Laramie Tunsil at left tackle. He's been everything and more. He's been really playing at the level of what we saw with Trent Williams for so long in Washington. He's been absolutely sensational and really do wish he was out there this week to see him because that's the guy you brought to compete with defenses like this. You try to boost your front five to compete with teams like the Eagles. But, obviously battling multiple injuries. So hopefully maybe get him back next week on Christmas against the Dallas Cowboys. But the bad is a whole lot. We could talk about really either side of the ball. And then the ugly, I'll just say right now is for me is the Jaden Daniels situation. I'm nervous about 2026 as far as the longevity. I do agree as far as shutting him down right now. Now there's a lot of questions we can ask as far as, hey, why weren't the other stars shut down as well as far as keeping a locker room together? But I get it. It's about the next decade, not about the next 3 weeks. So I'll say good Laramie Tunsil, bad has really been everything, and the ugly has been unfortunately the situation with Jaden under center.
Does the Jaden Daniels situation are we going to have to just be okay with the notion that he might play 15 games a year? Like, are we to expect that he misses 2 games a year and be okay with that?
I think a lot of people would be fine with, but I mean, you want him out there every single day. Like that's the guy you want to go to war with every single week. And we saw it last year as far as the lack of talent overall around him and on the defensive side of the ball, what he was able to mask. Like you have that guy every single week. It just gives you a chance against anybody in football. And that's how we describe the elites of the elites across this league, guys. So I hope not that we go into next year saying, man, he's going to miss maybe 1 or 2 divisional games. I don't want to say that. I want him to be out there every single week. And maybe it's something to where it's the way in which he's prepping his body. I don't know. Is it adding weight? That's something we talked about this past off season. I don't know what it is, guys. But it's starting to get a little scary, in my opinion, at least as far as the longevity, because the same issues we're talking about now, as far as holding him out the rest of the year, that same issue is going to show up week 1, 2026, 1st and 10 against whoever they're playing against. So that's kind of really my focus.
And Ryan, I appreciate the candidness about that. I feel like that's kind of a touchy subject here in DC. People are kind of afraid to kind of put out the whole injury-prone designation on Jaden Daniels or the concern long-term. I'm a little bit concerned. We have 4 injuries over 2 years. I respect him as a player, but I am – some things are coming up, right? Whether it's a knee, whether it's a hamstring, whether it's an elbow, things are popping up, and it is something I'm concerned long term. But I know you grind the film, and I know you watch the film. With the limited film that we saw this year with Jaden Daniels, was he still performing at a high level in your opinion? Was there any concerns that you saw from the tape? And kind of give me your perspective on that, please.
I think, George, great question. I think overall that Seattle game was what really kind of just it frustrated me watching it because he had to do everything. And
I agree.
Obviously, everyone else is going to remember, the nasty elbow injury, but the guy was getting killed and had to do everything the entire game. It wasn't just the back end of that football game. I think overall, you guys know this. If you say something bad about Jaden Daniels, you're going to have pitchforks at your door.
Absolutely.
It's unfortunate, but it's
true.
Okay to improve on certain things when we talk about with Jaden. And I think one thing is the footwork and the mechanics, and that comes with the guys on the outside that were not able to separate. And I can't sit here and say, last year, wow, Olamide Zaccheaus, De'Ami Brown, Jamison Crowder, that was great. But overall, there were certain moments where he knew exactly what he was doing as soon as he came to line of scrimmage, whatever look he got from a defense, and bam, the ball was out once that back foot hit the ground. Now, the durability, as I just mentioned in the prior question, he was completely healthy at Arizona State, most of the time at LSU as well. So that's something to potentially talk about down the road. But just overall this year, I think a little bit of the mechanics, the footwork, the eyes, just having to do everything at once. It was frustrating on tape, but overall, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception in the 4 games they consistently played from start to finish. That's a positive moving to next year.
Quick follow-up to that. Sorry, Doug. I was at the Seattle game, and it just seemed that Jaden I don't know if he wasn't reading the field well, or whether the separation from his receivers. It just seemed it was one read and run. He definitely seemed under siege during that game. And I think you're more of an edge guy in the upcoming draft class. So you think the biggest need. Do you think Washington needs to upgrade the skill position players? Do you think that's a major deficit for them? And what do you got to kind of foresee with that?
Yeah, I'll say this. I think I will never be opposed to adding more talent around Jaden Daniels. And I know we're going to get in the conversation of guys in like Carnell Tate or the Jeremiah Love, Jordan Tyson conversation. But at the end of the day, I do think there's more talent needed, because what do you do with Deebo Samuel? Is Traylon Burks a piece for the future? Is Luke McCaffrey a piece for the future? And what is really Jalen Lane? Because watching him, there's been moments I think he's been everything you wanted him to be as a return man. That's been great. But overall, you drafted him to be also a wide receiver 4 or 5 for this offense, and I'm just not personally seeing it right now. So I think you do need some more guys on the outside. I really do, moving into this year.
Diami left for you mentioned him earlier, I was thinking about that. He left for the bag, obviously, and nobody faults him for that. It was a 1-year deal. He probably will not be back in Jacksonville. If that number is back down at like 4 or 5, are you interested in Diami Brown again?
Yeah, he knows the offense if you still stick with Cliff, right? I think one of the most important hires you can make for a staff is your offensive coordinator, right? I think Cliff, we could have a lot of conversations on Cliff over the last 2 years.
You said stick with Cliff, which is interesting. Most people are talking about if Cliff leaves.
Yeah.
That's not what you said. You said if they stick with him, you think there's a possibility that they move in a different direction this offseason?
There's absolutely a possibility for sure. But I think right now, for me, I would move into next year trying to just keep that continuity with Jalen, an offensive coordinator. Because even you look, a little bit north into Philadelphia and see what Jalen Hurts and what he is. Now, I will say this: Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, completely different ball players, in my honest opinion, different class. But offensive coordinators, that continuity at the NFL level does matter.
You talked about beefing up for divisional games and what they did in the offseason with Tunsil and Connerly Jr. Is this the best offensive line since Trent Williams, Morgan Moses, Roulier, and Moses and Sheriff?
I'll even say this. I think, in my opinion, it's the best tackle tandem we've had since Chris Samuels and John Jansen.
That's a great tandem.
Way back. I think it's a really good group, and I think it's been the strength of this roster in 2025, which is a really good thing, because that's your security detail, really, for your Lamborghini and escorting him down 95. If you will. So those are your guys. They've been good. I'm very, very proud, honestly. It's funny to say that about a player, but Chris Paul, as a prior regime player, day 3 guy, where you basically gotten everybody out of the building, what he's been able to do at left guard is really present a great question for Adam Peters, whether you bring him back.
His guard's getting paid now, Ryan. Those guys make good money now.
It's guard getting paid,
Oh, his market's up there for sure.
Right.
Yeah. But is Brandon Coleman a guy that you like, or is that trade bait? You can hang him out there on a rookie contract for a tackle guard versatile player. I don't know, but it's a good question. But all 5 guys really have been very, very good this year, in my opinion.
Ryan, you had an excellent tweet the other day about how there's, Dan Quinn's over reliance on veteran players, not giving them snaps to the rookies and the younger generation there. I'm curious, another big topic over this past year has been Adam Peters in his 2024 class, and that second round in particular, right? Ben Sinnott, Mikey Sanderson, Johnny Newton. I'm curious, what were your thoughts of them coming into the NFL, and where are your thoughts are now?
Yeah, Johnny Newton. I was a guy that was trying to stay positive about Johnny Newton heading in really the middle portions of this year.
Yeah.
Down right now on Johnny Newton, a guy that's been now relegated to basically third down snaps, trying to rush the passer. And I don't know if it's ever going to come at 1 tech, 3 tech, 4 5 tech. I don't know where it's going to come from. And right now it's probably a miss as a guy that was a fringe first round pick. For Mike Sanders still, guys, I still think he's best on the outside. I know that's crazy to say because of the lack of verticality in his game, but he's best just working downhill and playing through the hands of receivers. The guy's got 8 interceptions. That's the second most in the entire 2024 draft class behind Kalen Bullock, right, in Houston. Exactly. And then Ben Sinnott, guys, I'll say this. I love all the beat reporters in D.C. You guys know the names. I love all the guys down there. They're great people and women as
Yeah.
well. Shout out to Nikki. But at the end of the day, Ben Sinnott was not drafted to be John Bates. He was drafted to be an F weapon for this offense, to expand this playbook, to align in the backfield, to take carries at times, to be the lead block baseball, and to get out in space and to change the math defensively. So far, through basically 2 years, he has not done that at all. Now, I will say this. There's been times on tape where he has had opportunities. He's open over the middle of the field, or he's open in a red zone opportunity, but it hasn't been there. And there's a reason for me why Jaden Daniels last year or Marcus Mariota doesn't throw you the football. There is also a reason for that. If they don't trust you, it's like basketball. I'm not going to throw you in the corner if you're clapping your hands and you got an open three. You can't shoot. I'm not going to throw you the ball. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I need to see more from Ben Sinnott. And guys, this next 3 weeks, huge evaluation period for him, both with Zach Ertz gone and now Colson Yankoff out this week.
Assuming that Cliff was in on the draft pick, and to your point, he was brought in to help open up the offense. Why aren't they giving him some of those reps? I mean, George and I were laughing on Monday about how we didn't realize tight ends could get yak. And here he is. You know, you throw him the ball and watch him run. Why does it take Zach Ertz getting hurt before we give this guy some reps? Assuming that Cliff was good with the guy. I don't understand it at all.
Yeah, I agree. There's a couple leashes right now that are a little bit too long on some players. And I can talk about Bobby Wagner all day. My guys are going to have to kick me off if I start on that train. But just overall, when looking at Ben Sinnott in this offense right now, like if it's a guy that you want to cut ties with and pull the Dom Hampton role, then admit that. Then make him inactive and bring in a free agent. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's just the opportunities, I think, hopefully grow these next 3 weeks. Try to feed him the ball. I think we may see some this week against the athletic pieces that they have at the second level for Philadelphia. You got to give the guys some shots, at least see what you're doing. I mean, this sounds like preseason where you're scheming up certain things to see what they can do in certain environments, but through almost 2 seasons, and it happened so quick. I mean, the guy it has simply not been enough. And I can't sit here right now where Zach Ertz has probably played his last snap as an NFL player, let alone in Washington, that Ben Sinnott is your tight end 1 F weapon moving into 2026. I don't see that right now.
I want to get back to Sandwich Joe real quick because I am with you, and George and I talked about it on Monday. Like, at what point do you just say, hey, he's an outside corner? That's our boundary corner. It sounds like we're on the same page here. As you said earlier, how comfortable are you going into next year with Trey Amos on one side, Sanders Drill on the other side, and then player to be named in the nickel?
Yeah, I would be comfortable with doing that. Now, everything correlates on defense, right? If your front 4 or 5 can get home, it makes it easier on the back end. And I think, but isolating those players, and to your question, Doug, and seeing what Mikey has done in 2 years and what Trey did this year before the injury, I thought both of them, again, Mikey, ups and downs, right? I think we could have good, have bad. But for Trey, I mean, that's CB1 moving into next year. And I don't really think it's close. Right. So I do feel comfortable having both of those guys on the outside. If you wanted to add a player in free agency and bring another veteran like you did with the Jonathan Jones situation, or you bring back Noah Igbenogany, or what is the Antonio Hamilton role potentially? Because the guy at least played well last week in an opportunity, but he is 32 years old. I don't know. We will see. But I think overall, I personally would be comfortable. I'd say it's a kind of a up and down comfortable, but with Mikey and Trey, young core on the outside for 26.
I was stunned when I found out that Hamilton was 32. I was all excited. I was like, who's this guy? We got this young kid on the bottom of the roster. He's finally getting some snaps. I went and Googled him, George, and guys my age.
I think exactly. I feel like everyone kind of got surprised by that. I'm a big advocate of surrounding Jaden Daniels with talent. The run game has been pretty good for the most part. I think it's been, yards per carry. Unfortunately, we've been down often. We kind of abandoned the run game, start dipping into the pass a little bit. I'm curious of your thoughts of the running back room going into next year, right? Right now, the only running back under contract is Krosky Merritt. I'm curious of your thoughts on him. And then what about McNichols and Rodriguez? Are they worth coming back, or do you explore other angles with that?
Yeah, I think if you're Cliff Kingsbury and you return, obviously you have guys that you like. And I think the guys that can operate what you want to do. But you need more juice in the back.
I agree.
I am a Bill Merritt guy. I know I've said it here with Doug before, and that I praised Bill Merritt in the offseason before they drafted him, said, hey, this guy can play. He's got fresh trim on the tires. I never expected him to be this because he has been a huge hit, right? At the end of the day, as a 7th rounder. I know he hasn't been overall great the past 2 months, but away from that, he has been a hit. But I do think you need some talent in the room. Bill right now for me is unplayable on third downs, especially in
I
pass
agree.
pro. It's not there right now. I think maybe that's something that progresses down the line because he has too much wiggle and too much juice not to be an impactful player on the perimeter if you want to flex him out. But I do think talent is needed there, bottom line.
Is Jeremiah Love special enough to get someone in the top 10 pick? For kind of looking at their Commanders. What are your thoughts on that?
This is a situation, guys, a few years ago when Bijan Robinson was coming out of Texas and there were questions about, hey, if Bijan's there, I remember getting questions saying, hey, Ryan, would you be mad, quote for quote? I would never be mad adding a talent like that. Jeremiah Love is a top 3 player for me in this class. Now, at the running back position and the value of the position, whatever people want to say, I just want to find ball players. And what he can do, I have a half a round grade higher on him than I did Ashton Genty last year. Amarian Hampton was my number 1 back in the class last year. It wasn't Ashton Genty. But for Jeremiah Love, what he can do as a big physical ball carrier that can go through you, he can go around you, he can go over you, you can run an offense through him. If you're Adam Peters and say, look, we got to keep Jaden Daniels healthy, we need someone to take the pressure off of him 20 plus times a game. That is a proven bell cow, has played some big time ball games. Do you take him at 7? Do you maybe trade back to 9 or 10? I don't know. We'll see what happens. But would I be away from adding him in the top 10? No, I would not.
Let me throw a question to both of you guys, if you don't mind. I'm very torn on the whole Jeremiah Love running back top 10 selection because there's 2 different pathways with it, right? We see Jahmyr Gibbs, who I think is arguably the best running back in the entire league, is slashing everyone up and putting up 200 total yards, right? But we also see Ashton Genty over on the Raiders. He's having a pretty productive season. I think he has 700 yards, 8 total touchdowns. Is it a luxury pick? Do you think Genty, he was a legendary generational running back coming out as well. Do you think Genty's maybe lack of production might be a deterrent for maybe looking at Jeremiah Love across the NFL, not just the Commanders? Doug and then Brian, what do you guys think?
I'll just say this, Nick. Sounds like you are similarly minded on this one. Ashton Genty was overdrafted. He was over pumped up last year, in my opinion. And I don't think he was in the same class as Bijan Robinson or Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Love, and I see an old Todd Gurley, quite frankly, and that gets me excited. I think he is worthy of top 10 or 12. I didn't see it with Ashton Genty, quite frankly, at all.
Ryan, is that similar thoughts, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably with Doug as far as being a little bit lower on Ashton. I mean, if you put Jeremiah Love in the Mountain West or Jahmyr in the Mountain West or Bijan in the Mountain West, I mean, it's I don't want to make those comparisons because that's playing hypotheticals, and I don't like doing that in comparison to talents. But I'm just for Washington right now. I do think there's other needs other than a primary running back. But I just think right now it is absolutely a luxury pick. You don't usually see that for teams like the Chiefs and the Eagles the last 5 to 6 years. So I'm kind of on the train of I'm there. I love the talent, no pun intended. Now there's some Commanders fans, and you guys remember the Bryce Love selection? That was supposed to be a guy, a Heisman runner-up. Completely different ball players. But that would be a luxury type of selection. We'll see what happens when it comes April.
Is this? It's early in the process. This feels like one of those drafts where it sucks to be picking in the top 10. Like it just feels like one of the quarterbacks to me aren't there that the teams are going to, somebody will, but you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like you have the Drake Mays or the Jaden Daniels in this class that we've had in the last couple classes. Is this a down year, or have we just not gotten into the tape yet? Have I not gotten into the tape yet? I know
I'll say this, Doug. This is a great question that we have to answer every year. I'm really on the train of if you trust your scouting staff from a collegiate perspective, you can find players in every draft, whether the consensus is good or bad at every single positional group. And when I look at this draft, I agree with you. The top end talent isn't overwhelming, but there are players on all 3 days, specifically looking at the Commanders' needs right now, which are a bunch, but the primary needs of edge or maybe another receiver or tight ends or a backer, a safety, another corner. That's a lot. But there are a lot of players every year that we always look back on and say, man, how did this guy get here? Or how did this guy get here? That's just the biggest question that we haven't been able to answer in Washington for almost 3 decades in their evaluation of what each class looks like and adding players and also coaching and development, which goes overlooked every single season. And I hate bringing up the Eagles again, but we always talk about Jalen Carter. You talk about Jordan Davis and Quinyon Mitchell. Their top 2 edge rushers this year were a former safety from Cornell going to Houston Christian and Jalix Hunt, and a former 7th-round pick out of Texas that didn't even play his rookie season, basically, in Moro Ojomo. So that development and finding players all 3 days is really my focus for Washington this year, moving forward, and the reason why they brought Adam Peters in the building. If they want to compete with the elites of the NFL, they're going to be able to evaluate themselves out of a paper bag, which they haven't been able to do for a long time.
But what you really meant with all that Eagles talk is draft more Georgia Bulldogs players.
SEC, right? SEC.
Every time. Yeah, so obviously I think the edge position is a hot topic here in DC, and we're starting to talk about the draft right now. Ryan, can you sell me or maybe discourage me from Ruben Bain and Arvell Reese? People keep talking about them often. I see Arvell Reese more as like an off-ball linebacker, more of an edge rusher, more of like of the ilk of Frankie Louvu, but a younger, maybe faster, more athletic person there. I don't know if you agree with that at all. And then Ruben Bain, I see more as a power rusher, someone that can move up and down the line, can generate pressures and a good run stopper, but maybe not that 10, 12 sack guy that people want him to be. Am I completely off on that? Could you kind of fill me in on what your thoughts or kind of break it down for me, please?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head, George, on Ruben Bain. Yeah, there's a lot of conversations going around right now. What is Ruben Bain? Okay. He's not an edge defender. Right now, I can't allow him at edge at 270-plus pounds. That's what he played at. I see him right now as like a 4-eye kind of shade 3 tech, up and down versatile player. And if I'm a team that wants a pure edge rusher, for me, David Bailey from Texas Tech is the best pure pass rusher in this class. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's not close, but there's a gap between him and the Cassius Howells of the world, and Josh Josephs and the names we're going to hear from the next few months. R. Mason Thomas, who hopefully we see tonight against Alabama for the Oklahoma Sooners. And then for Arvell Reese, I know the comparisons are always easy. Oh, we see a hybrid player from Ohio State, freak athlete. Oh, it's Micah Parsons.
Exactly.
Stop at that. We got to chill with that just a little bit. But I think the skill set is there as a guy that can play up and down the front 7 and be unique for you. But I think even expanding on your question, George, I think in the top 10, if there's one player for me that would be able to impact a variety of levels and do a lot of different things well immediately,
I know where you're going.
Caleb Downs.
Exactly. That's my guy. That's my guy. Yeah.
That's the one guy.
Can you kind of touch on him a little bit then, Ryan?
I was going to ask you next about him. It seems like people always say running back too high, safety too high, but that kid's got it.
It's a lofty comparison. I don't say this lightly because, he's my favorite athlete of all time. He would be the most talented defender since Sean Taylor was in the building, in my honest opinion. And that's a lofty comparison, not comparing the players, but as far as talent. He's a jack of all trades, and he does everything extremely well. You usually say you're a jack of all trades, master or none. No, this kid can do absolutely everything. If you want to line him in man and race his tight end up the seam for a Dallas Goedert in Philly or a Theo Johnson in New York, he can do that. You want to run the fringe areas and bring down Jahmyr Gibbs to the line of scrimmage, he can do that. He can play single high and offer some unique looks. He can play cover 2. He's a leader. He pops. He tackles his ass off. He's just an outstanding football player. And everything that I've heard as far as just a few conversations with some people around the industry, this kid wants to come in and just work. He comes in and works, he leads, and just straps up and plays ball every day. That fits the Commander culture if they want to build, trying to build that right now.
Yeah, exactly.
He's just a special football player.
The problem is, and you know this, there's 2 sides of the building, right? One side goes out and finds the talent. The other one manages the money. And you know how this works. This is why they don't like drafting safeties early. He immediately becomes like the second highest paid safety in the league if you draft him in the top 10. Are we still – that still is good for you?
A couple of years ago, people tried to get cute on Kyle Hamilton as well, out of Notre Dame. And I was on the train of, hey, this kid's a top 7 talent, 8 talent in the draft. And, different ball player, different height, weight type of things, the archetypes. But I just think when you watch the tape and you consistently see a player at the arguably the highest level of the game in the Big Ten, that's a player I would bet on. Yeah, I'd be comfortable with that.
You mentioned the kid from Texas Tech. Is he the most juiced up of the guys that we're looking at that play the edge? And is that the kind of guy Washington wants? But this offseason, they also kind of showed they want somebody that sets the edge first, right? Like they moved on from Dante Fowlers of the world for a reason. I'm not comparing him to the young kid. But where does he sit on the juice meter, and can he set the edge enough that will make this group happy?
I think specifically because of his length, he can. Now, with Big 12, there'll be a lot of conversations as far as the level of competition, even though it was fine this year. But I think he can absolutely set the edge with consistency. I'm very glad that he's going to go to the Senior Bowl, where, so he's going to show up and compete. Maybe he just shows up for one day of practice and heads out like Jermaine Johnson did from Florida State a couple years ago. We'll see what happens there. But he's got plenty enough juice to be a threat to where, hey, we can keep you down on early downs. They want to throw in first down. You can even kind of try to set the edge and then extend and then use your hand counters to get outside or inside. But I'll say this, as far as juice and explosiveness, the most explosive pass rusher for me right now in the class is Cassius Howell out of Texas A&M. There are major size concerns with him, both verticality and length. But as far as juice, Cassius Howell is probably right alongside there for me with David Bailey.
Former safety, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Interesting. Okay. Ryan, I've been very vocal about surrounding, I said this before, Jaden Daniels with weapons. I think I would love for Washington to add some wide receiver pieces to the room over there in DC. I was hopeful earlier, maybe Carnell Tate earlier in the draft, but I think Caleb Downs is now my guy. I want Washington to get him. Well, let's say, can you kind of talk about the top of the wide receiving class? Let's say ideally Caleb Downs is gone, maybe Washington goes a different direction, and then maybe some later third round picks that Washington could go if they don't get the top of the end. Wide receiver class.
Yeah, I'll say this: the top of the class for me, everyone loves Jordan Tyson. It's Mekhi Lemon from USC. I wish I could add an inch to Mekhi Lemon.
Yeah, but if you're not aware of the size,
yeah, you're gonna hear a lot about that. Oh, if there was one more inch, you're not gonna take him because he's an inch shorter. Give me him then. Sign me up. Because this kid, the route running, the hands, the toughness to go over the middle of the field, everything for that USC offense this year. That's going to be my number one receiver on the board. Jordan Tyson, explosive kid. I still want to see him get better in his release packages. Just overall at the line of scrimmage against press man, the longer corners he's going to face at the NFL level, plays a little bit too high at the line of scrimmage for me. And then Carnell Tate, people forget this guy's 6'2". People's always 5'11", 6 foot. He's 6'2", and played behind Jeremiah Smith. And really, Carnell will be wide receiver one at a lot of other major programs in college football if he wasn't behind, of course, probably top 3 pick next year. And the DC draft that we'll have in the nation's capital in 2027. But Carnell Tate really just does everything well. I think it's his hands. I always talk about the route running as well, but it's just the small nuances. You see it with Terry McLaurin, this guy out of Ohio State, little head fakes, the hips, the footwork. All of that is really already in his game, and what really makes those Ohio State receivers special. But to your next question, as far as day 2 players, I think there's one player on day 2 that I have fallen in love with, and not to use that lightly because his teammate has the same last name. It's Malachi Fields from Notre Dame, and I wish we were able to see him in the CFP because coming over from Virginia, 6'3", over 210 pounds. This is not a situation when you guys think of big physical receivers in Washington of the Antonio Gandy Golden or the Kelvin Harmon route. No, completely different athlete on the outside. Watch the Pitt tape, his ability to take over that football game. He had other guys on the outside. Jordan Faison, Jaden Greathouse for that Notre Dame offense. Eli Raritan is a tight end I really like also. Late day 2, early day 3 grades as well. He'll be down at the Shrine Bowl. But Malachi Fields can really go and get it. And I also love Zachariah Branch from Georgia. I know Doug will love that. I
was going to ask you about
playmaker.
The USC transfer. Talk about juice.
Yes, 100% juice. Now, is that skill set, if they keep Debo, does that really run into too much of Jalen Lane, Debo Samuel?
Would you bring Debo back?
I would personally right now. I would, yes. I want to see this offense full strength, Terry, Debo, and another potential wide receiver 3 on the outside. But yes, those couple guys really focus there on day 3 or day 2.
And you like Branch in day 3 there?
I do. Or late day 2, early day 3. Yeah.
Ryan, I know Doug will be pumped about that. Ryan, what's your thoughts on the whole? And it's kind of going off on a different tangent. The Brennan Ayuk situation. Would you bring him over here in DC? I feel like he's been too injury prone. There's a lot of baggage there. He's kind of a concern for me. I'm just kind of curious. You said Debo. Just kind of worried about, curious about that.
Yeah, I know him and Jaden have a connection. So does Jaden and Malik Neighbors. All the guys who play with him. I get all that. I'm right there with you. They obviously have established the types of guys they want in the building, and maybe that even excludes how good you are as far as talent. That I don't think this is the years of, hey, bringing Albert Hainsworth and bringing OJ Atogwe. Everybody and their mother bringing them in here, giving them money. So I'm kind of with you. There's a little bit too much baggage there, and I think you can find a talent parallel to what he could bring to this offense.
Got it. Cool.
Do they need to smash a home run with the first pick, best player available, or would you? I know you scout guys like all the picks you can get, but do they need a blue chip player or do they need more picks?
Yeah, right now, guys, they have 3 blue chip talents. It's Terry, it's Jaden, and Laramie Tunsil. That's it for me. Now, I wouldn't say just, hey, draft best player available. Now, are they going to be in a spot high enough to where a team wants to come up and grab one of these quarterbacks? We'll see, because it makes it extremely interesting as well if Dante Moore doesn't declare or Ty Simpson also doesn't declare. Then you're looking at Fernando Mendoza, and then how do people think about Lenore Sellers? Is that an Anthony Richardson situation? The talent's there, but the tape has been so inconsistent, right? So I think overall right now, inside the top 10, I would like for them hopefully be in a spot to trade back. That's really where I'm at with things. I would like them to trade back and get more picks, get more proverbial darts at the dartboard to add more talent as you work into day 2 into day 3. But you do have to absolutely hit on your first round pick, and then moving into the top 100, you have to hit on those as well. You just do.
Yeah.
If they lose out this season, and it feels like they could,
yeah.
What is the perception of Dan Quinn going into next season?
For me, guys, it's really not going to change too much, but I think overall, people around here are so quick, to again raise those pitchforks again and show up at your door, PO'd. I just think everything went so wrong this year so quickly that, people want to play for him. People want to show up and compete, and we saw that in the Denver game. Now, what happens, even in Miami at points in time where we don't want to talk about all the defense look good, there were points in times where you're asking questions, or the back end of the Giants game where the 2 fumbles are inexcusable. My perception on Dan Quinn is he's still the guy right now. I can ask questions as far as some of the personnel and deployment on defense, specifically at the second level. But my opinion on Dan Quinn, specifically heading into 2026, I'm still kind of a net neutral, and I'm kind of still confident that he can get them there, which is the goal of the Super Bowl moving forward. That's kind of where I'm at.
The problem for me is, and I'll steal this from George because he says it all the time, if he's a defensive-minded head coach that has a terrible defense 2 years in a row, bottom 10. It's not like this year with the injuries, they've been terrible on defense. They've been terrible on defense for 2 years in a row. And you've got a head coach in an offensive-minded league. They picked a defensive head coach, and the defense stinks.
Yeah, I agree. 100% I agree with George.
So, Ryan, really quickly, so, let's say Washington's sitting there at number 8. Do you think, and it's way early in the process, we have a lot more information to digest. I'm just curious, do you think these players that we keep talking about and hearing about, Ruben Bain, Arvell Reese, Caleb Downs, Jeremiah Love, who will they likely be there at number 8, or are they going to be taken above, in the top 5 picks, in your opinion? Who will likely be around, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a fun hypothetical to play. I think if I had to guess right now, I think Love will be there. I think Ruben Bain will be there. I don't think Downs will be there, and I don't think Arvell Reese will be there. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
Yep.
Let's get out of here on this. Give us some guys that as we get into the draft cycle, we should be paying attention to, that are in that top 12-ish, 15-ish range, that maybe we're not hearing about now, but we will.
Yeah, I think Josh Josephs, the edge rusher from Tennessee, is a heck of a player. Or Mason Thomas, I mentioned earlier, from Oklahoma. You want to focus obviously on positions of need. I'll even just throw out some more names for you, Doug, even working into day 2. A tight end I absolutely love in the class is Michael Trigg from Baylor. He's been around a bunch. I don't know exactly how teams are going to kind of ask him about, hey, bouncing from USC to Ole Miss to Baylor, but the talent is off the charts. Michael Taff, the safety from Texas, is one of my favorite players in this class. That's just a flat-out ball player. He's not going to show up from a perspective of athleticism and all the on-running analytics with the 40 times, and everybody wants to look into it. But that's just a really good football player. I think he's even got some Reed Blankenship, even the pop that a Jalen Petrie has downhill from Baylor. I mentioned Malachi Fields as well. I think a small school name to know is Charles Demings. He's a corner from Stephen F. Austin. That's going to be down, I believe, at the Senior Bowl. Yeah, he's going to be down at the Senior Bowl. This long, physical kid. They usually have a pretty good track record of finding small school guys with ball production. Late day 3 type of player, but you need more talent in that secondary room. So a lot of names to know. Tight end class is also interesting. You know, Doug from your Georgia guys, Lawson Lucky and Oscar Delp, both guys potentially could be Commanders as well. There's so many names. I wish I could sit here all day and talk to you guys about it, but I know we're getting into it.
We'll do it. We'll do it. Hey, I haven't talked to you since Lane Kiffin switched. What were your thoughts there?
Yeah,
is it a lateral move, or is LSU significantly better job?
I think it's a better job. I think the resources and the money and everything there is a better job. But I'm a person that believes in a little bit of loyalty. I know it really just doesn't exist in sports today. Lane Kiffin is a hell of a character.
That's such a Lane Kiffin move there, right?
I mean, it is. I wish him the best of luck at
LSU, USC.
But yeah, I wish him the best of luck at LSU. That's all I'll say.
Very classy move there. That's the way to say that one.
Cool.
George, you got anything else for Ryan?
I'm good, man. I really appreciate Ryan. We got to connect again more so towards the draft.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm excited to get in the weeds with you later on, buddy. Thank you.
Absolutely. As always, guys. Hey, enjoy the CFP too. It should be a lot of fun.
Yes, absolutely. Come on, 2 minutes on Georgia.
All right. See you guys.
See you. Awesome. Perfect.
Okay.
Don't give it all that's over yet. I'm going to close it out.